Welcome, everyone. I am thrilled to guide you through one of the most transformative shifts in corporate finance today, generative AI in Treasury. Let's get started and explore how you can future-proof your operations. Welcome to our deep dive into generative AI in Treasury. Think of this technological shift as being as monumental to finance as the internet or the steam engine were to global industry. Right now, the landscape is in its infancy. Our data shows that 82% of corporate treasuries are just beginning to identify and explore AI use cases, and a mere 3 to 5% are actively scaling them in production. But the vision for 2030 is crystal clear. AI is poised to become the new treasury operating system. In this training, we are going to explore exactly what this means. We will learn how to shift your operations from manual, reactive processing into an automated, predictive powerhouse, ultimately elevating the treasury function into a truly strategic partner for the enterprise. Let's take a look at the flowchart on your screen. It illustrates a simple but profound evolution. On the left, we start with the current state of treasury, which is heavily bogged down by manual and reactive processes. As we introduce generative AI into the middle of this workflow, it acts as a catalyst. The outputs transition from reactive to predictive and automated. Ultimately, this leads us to the node on the right, Treasury 2030, where the function achieves its final state as a strategic value add. This visual perfectly encapsulates our journey today. Now that we know what it is, we must ask, why implement generative AI now? Treasury teams are under immense pressure to do more with less, while managing an ever-increasing velocity of cash. The productivity leap offered by Gen AI allows teams to automate mundane tasks like data consolidation and focus entirely on high-level financial analysis and capital optimization. However, the journey is not without its roadblocks. The reality on the ground shows that 59% of organizations struggle with limited execution resources and 45% are hampered by poor data quality. To harness Gen AI successfully, we must acknowledge these hurdles up front and systematically dismantle them. By cleaning our data and strategically allocating resources, we lay the groundwork for true automation. This diagram maps out the core drivers and challenges we face. At the top, we see the immediate pressures, increasing cash velocity and strict resource constraints. Both of these point directly to the necessity of a Gen AI solution. However, from that central AI node, the path splits. On one side, we achieve massive productivity gains, but on the other, we inevitably collide with data quality hurdles. Understanding this split is critical. You cannot reap the benefits of the productivity node without first resolving the data quality node. It is a balancing act. Let's move into the how of implementing AI, starting with Phase 1, the identification stage. This is where you lay your foundation. You must begin by pinpointing high-impact problems solvable by Gen AI, specifically targeting repetitive tasks where you can easily measure the return on investment. Do not start with complex, unstructured problems. Secondly, AI is entirely dependent on data. You need a robust data strategy ensuring clean, accessible data from your ERP and treasury management systems within a highly secure environment. Finally, technology is only half the battle. The other half is culture. Leaders must foster an AI-first mindset, framing AI not as a replacement for human workers, but as a co-pilot that augments your team's existing capabilities. Looking at this flow, notice how the identification stage requires parallel efforts. From identifying high ROI use cases, we branch into two distinct requirements, assessing our data readiness to ensure clean, secure data, and simultaneously building an AI-first mindset across our human workforce. Only when both the technical data nodes and the cultural mindset nodes converge do we reach the final stage, being truly ready for a proof of concept. If you skip the cultural node, your adoption will fail, no matter how clean your data is. Once you have identified your targets, you enter Phase 2, exploration. Here, you mobilize a proof of concept, or POC, to validate the technology in a controlled environment. The key to success is picking low-hanging fruit tasks like drafting routine reports or extracting data from standard bank portals. But as senior professionals, we must prioritize governance. Regulated fields like Treasury require explainable AI, or XAI. Auditors must be able to trace the model's inputs, assumptions, and reasoning. Therefore, we design our PCS with a human-in-the-loop framework. The AI does the heavy lifting, but a human expert always reviews and holds the power to override. This ensures accuracy and builds critical trust within your team. This diagram highlights the critical governance checkpoint in our exploration phase. We start by selecting a simple POC, but before we deploy, we hit the governance check diamond. This splits into two mandatory requirements: explainable AI for traceable reasoning and human-in-the-loop for expert validation. Both of these paths must be satisfied before we can move down to measuring our success metrics. This visual reinforces that in corporate treasury, speed must never come at the expense of transparency and control. Moving past the pilot, we enter transformation and optimization, the stages where we scale. Transformation requires modernizing your infrastructure, typically adopting an API-first architecture so your treasury systems can speak seamlessly with third-party AI models. Alongside technology, you must deploy an enterprise-grade governance framework to protect data privacy. Then comes optimization. AI is not a set-it-and-forget-it tool. It requires continuous feedback loops. Your team will actively train the models, optimizing prompts and correcting context to improve accuracy over time. Consequently, this requires massive team upskilling. You are no longer managing spreadsheets. You are managing intelligent systems, requiring your staff to pivot from operational data entry to strategic financial advisory. Here we see the scaling architecture. Transformation acts as the foundation, splitting into API-first infrastructure and strict governance policies. These feed directly into the optimization node. Notice how optimization isn't an endpoint, but an ongoing process that necessitates continuous prompt feedback loops and team upskilling. As the AI gets smarter, your team must also elevate their skills to manage it. The diagram illustrates that technology and human capability must scale synchronously to achieve long-term success. Let's take a deep dive into specific use cases and the very real pitfalls you will encounter. First, cash flow forecasting. Gen AI alone struggles with structured, numerical time series data. The pitfall is inaccurate forecasting due to siloed data. The solution is to use Gen AI as an interface, but rely on traditional machine learning models for the actual math. Second, reporting automation. The major risk here is the AI hallucinating false numbers, destroying trust. You mitigate this by anchoring the AI strictly to deterministic, rules-based logic. Finally, document processing, like reading complex ISDA agreements. The risk is data leakage. You solve this by running the AI in a closed, controlled environment, asking it only to extract specific structured data fields, minimizing creative noise. This diagram acts as your risk mitigation map. From our central use cases node, we branch out to cash flow, reporting, and document processing. Follow the dotted lines. These represent the hidden pitfalls, bad math, hallucinations, and security breaches. However, the solid nodes at the bottom offer our concrete solutions, combining AI with traditional machine learning, anchoring outputs to deterministic rules, and executing within closed environments. This shows that every AI capability must be paired with a specific risk mitigation strategy. Let's examine a highly impactful, real-time use case, the AI Treasury Assistant. Consider the global communications firm WPP, which successfully implemented a large language model assistant that delivers tangible value daily. It drafts board papers, provides policy recommendations, and assists in FX risk management. Imagine building an interconnected web of these agents. One agent handles KYC compliance, while another reconciles unstructured invoices. Let's look at how this works in practice with a sample code prompt. You would instruct your API system, you are a Treasury copilot. Extract all FX exposure amounts and currencies from the uploaded unstructured PDF contract. Output the data strictly as structured JSON key value pairs. This output is then seamlessly ingested into your treasury management system. This isn't science fiction. It is practical automation happening right now. Let's walk through the sequence diagram to see the real-time data flow. The user initiates the process by uploading an unstructured contract to the Gen AI agent. The agent processes our specific prompt, autonomously extracting the FX exposure data and formatting it. Next, the agent makes an API push, sending that now structured JSON data directly into the treasury management system. Finally, the TMS processes the data and updates the visual risk dashboard for the user. It perfectly illustrates how AI bridges the gap between unstructured documents and structured financial systems. As we conclude, we look toward the 2030 vision. The Treasury of the future will be a digitally native, strategic control tower. We are fundamentally shifting the function from relying on hindsight looking at historical reports to generating foresight through predictive intelligence. To succeed, Organizations cannot simply buy software, they must adopt a tech-native mindset characterized by disciplined execution and collaborative openness. AI will not replace the treasurer. Rather, the treasurer using AI will replace the one who does not. Equip your teams with the right platforms, build robust processes, and upskill your people to lead this revolution. Thank you for joining this deep dive. I invite all learners to like, subscribe, and visit quicktechie.com for premium certification prep, including Q&A banks, full ebooks, audiobooks, full-length training, and interview guides. In our final diagram, we contrast the old with the new. The top path shows traditional treasury, locked into hindsight and historical reporting. But follow the dotted line of Gen AI transformation. It lifts us into Treasury 2030. Here, the function splits into providing actionable foresight and predictive intelligence, ultimately becoming the strategic control tower for the entire enterprise. This is your roadmap for the future, moving from a backward-looking operational center to a forward-looking strategic powerhouse.